think that when you're working on your kind of concept document or your pitch document, these are the things that I believe you have to make sure you've got in there. You have to have your characters. I mean, I know this is going to be teaching you to feel like it's really basic, but I have read documents that don't have all of these elements. Or scatter them so far and wide that by the time you get to the document, you actually don't know what you're reading anymore. You are dealing potentially with up to, with a page maximum. You can see in this, in Lost Boys and Underground, they have done it in half a page. So you have to work out, you have to practice to make your conceptual documents as concise and effective as you can. Because I can't tell you often enough, if you corner someone at a function and have a 10-minute spiel, they will find an excuse to go to the toilet after 2. If Helen gets a document on her desk and it's 30 pages long and it's mainly waffle, she will put that at the bottom of her pile. It's just unattractive. So you must find, you must always be working in a way that you can make that kind of concept concise and effective.
And it's very hard work.
It's really hard to do.
We spend enormous amounts of time and money in the company getting things down to 2 pages or getting things down to 1 page. And then we try them and then they don't work and then we go back, and everybody in the company works hard at doing them. We send them up to Belinda and she rewrites them, and then they come back again and Tony rewrites them and I rewrite them, and we just work and work and work. Getting your language concise and engaging and interesting, and,
I would rather write a 90-minute feature film than a synopsis for that film. If you are a writer, and if you are a really good and engaging writer, don't you want the producer to understand that from what you give them? Just don't give them a dull document, is the other thing. Okay, so make sure that character has something at stake that we talked about, blah, blah, blah. Make it clear what the relationships are. Because I can't think of documentary, drama, I can't think of anything that is not going to have a set of relationships within it that are going to partly fuel be the movement of the story. So you want, not all of them, again, this is half a page and you've given us 2 sets of relationships. You want the setting. What is the world of this story or stories? What is the world of this documentary? And again, I'd say that even this, I take the setting one word further than you might normally think. Set in suburban Melbourne in the late 1980s, underground. To me, underground is part of the setting. It's not just suburban. As soon as we say underground, we put that title in there. That's giving you a huge amount of information. It is underground. It's in these sort of little bedrooms at the back of the house. It's in sort of cafes. It's people skulking around. It really gives you a real sense of sort of what that setting is. The tone. Is it a comedy? Is it black? Is it serious drama? I've recently read a pitch document, and I discovered on page 3 it was a comedy. I think that's a little bit too late.
And don't just say it's
funny. A comedy.
Make people laugh.
It has to be, because that's the other thing, is that everything I had read up until that point made me think, this is a very serious drama. And then I was told it was a comedy, and it was like, well, if you hadn't you should have been able to tell me that in exactly the way you wrote that document. You've got to make it really, really clear what the tone is. And of course the premise, what drives the narrative. In this, you're probably pretty much only dealing with the premise, not dealing with the story, which will have more beats in it. So what we see here is that we've got interpersonal relationships that are driving the narrative, but you've also got this thriller element, which is the cop tracking them down. So they're kind of on the run. I don't know where this idea came from. The ... How many things have I read that people set something up and then it's kind of like ... Well, you'll have to come to me to find out more. It's like, well, I'm really busy. I don't think I'll bother. It's also this idea of protecting your idea, I think, which is kind of mad. If you want someone to work with you, you have to tell them what the idea is.
Yeah.
You've got to tell them what happens. And this is complete crap.
Because quite often you're reading things and actually nothing happens.
Yeah.
You think something's going to happen and it never happens.
Nothing happens.
And it's boring.
Yeah. So particularly with feature films, you do want to put your story beats. So not just the beginning and the end. So as well, you know, you've got your characters, you've got your main relationships, and then you will be picking out these key structural moments. It will be, what's the status quo? What's the world that you have? What's the situation with the character? What is the inciting incident? That's the thing that starts the story. What's your first act turning point, your midpoint, your second act turning point, and the climax? If you put all of those beats in your story, you will have an excellent story to pitch. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're working on a feature film, do not write your pitch document until you know what I'm talking about.
You know, we do spend far too much time sort of with our arms around our stuff, making sure that no one steals it or making sure that no one looks at it or whatever. You really need to find, as a creative person, you need to find other people. They might not even be in the same field, but, you know, if they're intelligent and smart and, you know, whether that's street smart or educated smart, get them to read it, get them to listen to it. I mean, we, you know, just as we spend days, weeks, months sometimes on some of our documents, we also spend a lot of time on our pitching. And we pitch to each other, we practice, and, you know, we change things, and, you know, that whole thing where you're watching to see whether somebody responds to something that you think is funny, and they don't. You go, okay, got to change that. And then they laugh at something that you didn't realise was quite as, you know, would land as well as it did, and so, you know, you change those things. It's really just, it's practice, it's work, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Quite complicated how the offset works. Some of you will know, some of you won't, but what it's done is it's brought in hundreds of millions of dollars into the film and TV industry, but it's also, it's going, what it will do in the future is really where the beauty of it is, because it means that if you make something that sells, then you make money. And previously, without that equity position that's been provided by the producer offset, you wouldn't. So you make the slab, it cost $8.8 million. You have to return $8.8 million before the producer would get a cent extra beyond their fee. Now, because we have a 20% stake, we get 20% of every dollar that's earned by the slab, and the slab is selling, and we are, in the next few weeks, going to get our first check. The Sapphires is sold to Miramax. It's going to show in 50 states. That company will start to get really good revenues coming back, and they're going to spend it on writers, directors, novels, and so somewhere between 3 and 5% of the budget goes on the writing, which could be, as I say, it depends whether it's, you know, original or based on a novel or based on a play, or, you know, what your original material is.
And if you want to know about writers' fees, the Australian Writers Guild is the place that has that information.